A normal-looking man quietly attends the hunter qualification exam, but his sudden performance completely shocks the world's most powerful S-class hunters. He effortlessly crafts a legendary sword sheath that even renowned grandmother blacksmiths could never reproduce. This jaw-dropping scene makes every judge feel highly confused and absolutely bewildered by his incredible, supreme hidden talent. After a rigorous system evaluation, this unique layered fire sheath is officially declared to have reached an ultra-rare grade. The proctors struggle to understand how a mere candidate could possess such flawless crafting skills. They have absolutely no idea that this quiet man was already the world's ultimate crafting master in his deeply regretful past life. He previously relied on his supreme crafting skills to secure a bloody victory, yet humanity could not survive. The ultimate cost was far too catastrophic because the 6 ancient demon gods who swore to destroy the world were simply too powerful, mercilessly wiping out entire kingdoms and leaving nothing but endless ash behind their cruel path. Among them, the final terrifying entity was the notorious demon god of the Sea of Destruction. Although the monster was eventually slain, the vast majority of the continent's fertile land was already completely swallowed by the toxic, deadly sea of ruin that the creature left behind, leaving the desperate survivors with absolutely no hope for future. Looking at this apocalyptic scenery, I cannot help but mock my own pathetic destiny. I fought so incredibly hard to survive the Great War, only to face a slow death in this cursed ocean. While the surviving legendary heroes are gone, the massive Babel Tower that once supported the entire planet has completely collapsed into useless stone rubble. Even after the demon lord perished, this damn ruinous sea refuses to scatter. Suddenly, a cold voice echoes right behind my back, mocking my words by saying that clueless outsiders would definitely think this hard-won victory was entirely my own glorious achievement. The squad members behind me apparently harbor a deeply negative opinion regarding my overall performance. The arrogant woman named explosive sneers, calling me a pathetic coward who simply faked illness to survive. The man known as Ice continuously grumbles that I only joined their elite military legion to hitch a free ride, utterly ignoring the fact that my expertly crafted gear was the only thing keeping them alive through the intense battles. I completely ignore their harsh jeers, focusing instead on the heavy burden of our collective survival. These 3 legendary warriors are known as the Independent Hounds. They possess monstrous individual combat strength, yet they choose a neutral path, acting as selfish opportunists who only care about personal profit within the grey zones of this brutal world war. I spent over 2 hours carefully restoring their broken weapons as a final tribute. If these selfish bastards had helped earlier, they wouldn't have died with crushed organs and pierced hearts. Now, the overwhelming, giant tsunami approaches rapidly, preparing to swallow my tired body into the deep abyss, ending the final chapter of this long, painful era.
I violently press my palm against my chest, executing my unique blacksmith skill called Bond Extraction. This legendary ability allows me to manifest a glowing mineral stone directly from the profound depths of my soul, utilizing the deep connections forged with my comrades throughout the war, hoping to create one final masterpiece before the world ends.
The continuous, heavy metallic striking sounds echo rhythmically through the cold air. For every 10 hammer blows I strike, the apocalyptic waves roar once. With a final strike, an unexpectedly ordinary weapon appears. I sigh in disappointment, then violently plunge the sharp blade directly into my own beating heart, refusing to be slowly swallowed by the sea. As my consciousness begins to fade, my bleeding body is completely dragged into the dark ocean currents. The ethereal wave sounds I always heard since awakening magic were actually the whispers of the disaster sea. Then, a golden system notification violently flashes before my dying eyes. Before I can even comprehend the meaning of this reality-bending skill, the vision of my old instructor appears right in front of me. I wake up with a violent gasp, completely shocked to find myself sitting back at the academy entrance exam hall. This incredible phenomenon means my final sword possessed the miraculous ability to reverse time itself. My confused mind races as I realize this is exactly 31 years into the past. Is this a mere illusion before death, or did my final masterpiece truly save my soul? The annoyed teacher snaps loudly, warning me that I will be kicked out immediately if I do not take this crucial qualification test seriously from now on. I tightly grip the heavy blacksmith hammer resting on the wooden table. The confusing details no longer matter. The only crucial truth is that fate has granted me a miraculous second chance. A cold, determined smile plays upon my lips. This time, Armed with my future knowledge, I will perfectly protect everything and trigger a true industrial revolution. Everything in my new life officially begins right here at this crucial academy entrance examination. In this lifetime, I will successfully pass the trial of Babel, meet the 3 independent hounds, and eventually convince them to save helpless humanity. As my heavy blacksmith hammer falls, an extraordinary resonance suddenly echoes throughout the quiet examination hall. The moment this remarkable sound echoes, the chief instructor's facial expression completely freezes in pure astonishment. He turns his head around to stare at this highly peculiar candidate, deeply fascinated by his flawless rhythm. Every single blow perfectly replicates that unique clear tone, revealing a masterfully heavy, steady, and clean crafting technique with zero error. To the instructor, my fundamental crafting foundation appears exceptionally solid and experienced. When I lift the highly anticipated piece, everyone gasps at its magnificent quality. The judges even consider letting me pass immediately. Suddenly, I violently smash the beautiful weapon to pieces, shocking the entire crowd with this completely unexpected and reckless action. The confused examiners demand an immediate explanation for why I am treating this important exam like a childish game. I merely chuckle and calmly respond that I refuse to let such terrible garbage represent my professional pride. While one angry judge tries to disqualify me, a mysterious man in a formal suit suddenly intervenes, granting my request. The suit-wearing gentleman commands his nervous assistants to quickly bring me all the remaining raw materials. He eagerly wishes to see exactly what kind of ultimate masterpiece I can forge under these desperate conditions. After obtaining the fresh ores, I immediately begin reheating the furnace, fully aware that my current immature body severely lacks sufficient magic power. With limited time left, I choose a highly dangerous path. I deliberately pour my remaining mana straight into the volatile firestones, risking a catastrophic explosion. I throw the raw materials inside, and a blinding radiance of 7 colored flames violently erupts. The panicked assistants desperately reach for fire extinguishers, but the wise chief instructor quickly stops them. The experienced instructor commands his staff to closely observe the intricate fluid movement of the mystical fire. He recognizes this advanced technique as the 5-color flame harmony, which safely generates extreme temperatures using minimal mana. Everyone is absolutely stunned by my precise control as the roaring furnace successfully alters its elemental attributes to greatly reduce forging time. With only 300 minutes remaining, the immense pressure intensifies. I relentlessly hammer the glowing stone into thin sheets after 90 grueling minutes. Suddenly, my protective magical barrier vanishes due to total exhaustion, causing my hands to violently split open and bleed. Ignoring the intense pain, I tighten my grip and continue striking without wasting a second. Pushing my physical limits to the absolute edge, I rapidly sharpen the blade and carefully measure its straightness. Right as the final countdown ends, I exhale a long sigh of relief over my dried blood. My ultimate creation is finally complete, granting me the exclusive Flame Artisan skill. This ultra-rare weapon is officially named the 5-color Flame Blade. This advanced tier scimitar features 5 distinct elegant flame patterns that react beautifully with injected mana, unleashing a mesmerizing display of colors. The entire room stands completely speechless by this miraculous achievement. 10 minutes later, I am quietly sitting inside the private office of the chief instructor to discuss the future of my crafting career. The instructor notices my dissatisfaction and advises me to withdraw, admitting Babel's blacksmith department has failed for years. I remain silent, already knowing this place will shut down in 8 years. He urges me to join Vulcan Academy instead, but I confidently interrupt his words. I proudly declare that the world's greatest blacksmith institution will not be Vulcan, but this very Babel department that I am about to lead straight to the absolute summit. A single handshake allows the mysterious man to instantly extract a rare metallic ore from his newly formed bond. He will eventually utilize this unique rock to forge a legendary S-class alloy longsword. This incredible innate talent quickly transformed him into the most powerful blacksmith in human history, allowing him to easily conquer every future battle. Just moments ago, I confidently promised the shocked professor that I would personally lead our struggling forging department to become the world's absolute strongest. The professor stares at me with sheer disbelief, seeing his own forgotten dreams reflected within a reckless, young teenager who possesses a highly unique, intensely defiant and powerful aura. The experienced professor calmly states that if I truly wish to achieve such an impossible peak, I must first prove myself by becoming the absolute top genius within this elite institution. He seriously doubts whether a newcomer like me possesses enough raw capability. I simply smile, confidently declaring that no student here could ever surpass my supreme skills. The curious professor then asks if I truly understand how Babel Academy selects its elite freshman chief. I naturally know the entire rigorous process. The institution divides its students into multiple specialized training lines, focusing heavily on combat as the primary branch, followed by various supporting departments that spread out deeply like complex, ancient tree roots. To secure the prestigious chief title, one must possess extraordinary supernatural abilities and earn absolute recognition from the entire academy. The old professor's arm trembles slightly as he offers some serious personal advice rather than lecturing me. He honestly warns me that even the most talented blacksmiths can rarely find genuine success within this environment. He genuinely believes that Vulcan Academy remains the only proper path for my future development. I deeply appreciate his sincere kindness, realizing this great mentor cares far more about my growth than his own professional status. I firmly tell him that surrounding environments can never hinder my ultimate goal because my crafting will change this reality. Moved by my absolute confidence, the professor smiles and extends his hand for a warm partnership. That night at home, I immediately activate my special extraction skill to manifest a glowing mineral stone. This rare material is officially classified as fire-melting iron, a superior medium-grade metal capable of storing intense elemental heat with remarkable efficiency. Although its current volume is slightly small, its unique wood-like properties are exceptionally excellent for future weapon crafting. To defeat the 6 cruel demon gods who currently threaten our entire planet, I must carefully plan my heavy training schedule without rushing any critical steps. I cannot allow my precious memories of those future battles to fade. My primary goal is to obtain weapons related to memory preservation to ensure my strategic knowledge remains completely intact. While deep in thought, a sharp system chime suddenly interrupts my mind. My bond level has successfully reached level 1, and a new imprint is added. 1 week later, I find myself exploring the massive Babel Academy. Since this is the old campus from 30 years ago, getting lost in these massive hallways seems completely normal. Fortunately, I finally locate Room Smith, my designated examination site for today. Inside the room, 2 separate crafting tables are set up, and another candidate stands nearby, looking incredibly aggressive with an intense, bloodthirsty glare. The main evaluator sits at the front desk, continuously tapping a rhythmic beat while acting extremely impatient. This arrogant man is actually the vice dean of the academy, and he openly insults the professor standing next to him. I quickly realize that the blacksmith department faces severe political oppression from the institution's highly corrupt leadership. I politely greet the fierce student, but he treats me like trash. Suddenly, a clear female voice echoes from the entrance, drawing everyone's immediate attention. The vice dean instantly changes his tone, welcoming the highly respected department head to oversee our examination. The moment I see her face, my mind instantly freezes in absolute shock. I recognize this striking red hair and commanding posture immediately. This powerful woman is none other than the legendary Dean of Percival Academy from my tragic past life. I never anticipated that we would reunite in this manner during my entrance trials. As she sits down gracefully, a flood of memories rushes through my head. This unexpected encounter proves that my journey to rewrite destiny has officially begun. Looking at her stunning face, I am completely shocked because I never expected this notorious foodie to appear right here. In my past life, she was globally recognized as a supreme S-class hero, possessing a highly unique, terrifying innate skill that allowed her to continuously increase her combat power by devouring exceptionally powerful, high-grade forged weapons. She used to be my loyal long-term customer before my regretful reincarnation, but unfortunately, she did not survive until the final apocalyptic war. Before her tragic death on the battlefield, her very last words expressed deep regret for eating the final weapons I crafted. Remembering her painful demise makes my heart feel incredibly heavy and deeply sorrowful. Her monstrous combat strength had originally blocked countless lethal attacks from the brutal demon gods on the front lines, saving thousands of innocent human lives. Suddenly, a sharp voice violently interrupts my deep thoughts. The strict examiner loudly commands me to focus my attention immediately as he prepares to explain the upcoming critical rules of this test. The total duration for this secondary exam is strictly limited to 90 minutes. Within this tense timeframe, your newly crafted equipment must work perfectly alongside the primary weapon blade from your previous trial. The examiner slowly raises his fist, suddenly summoning a dense sphere of roaring elemental fire directly from the hollow center of his bare hand. He strictly announces that everyone must exclusively utilize the provided alchemy forge to complete their designs. He gestures toward the massive piles of premium mineral ores scattered across the floor, allowing us to freely mix and match any elements. Under the watchful eyes of Department Head Liu and the strict Vice Dean, the crucial trial officially begins. The arrogant yellow-haired youth standing right next to my table glares at me with pure disdain. I completely ignore his presence, knowing that only one winner can be selected from this trial. As I tie my blacksmith apron to select my ores, the annoying boy constantly mocks my choices, claiming a weakling like me lacks qualifications. He proudly brags about how to correctly utilize pure mono-resonance to prevent elemental instability, acting as if I am completely clueless. I glance back with immense annoyance, telling him to mind his own business. I suddenly recognize his striking physical resemblance to the Vice Dean, realizing this arrogant brat is actually the corrupted high official's son. His prestigious family name represents a renowned holy lineage of elite alchemy blacksmiths. He possesses massive magic reserves that easily rival the top second-year academy students. The brat smugly selects his materials, believing that competing against a low-born civilian like me is a complete waste of his time, confident that his victory is already guaranteed. Sitting at the main judging panel, Liu notes that the boy chose high-capacity magical stones infused with water elements. The Vice Dean proudly agrees, but the professor worries because water mono is extremely sensitive to intense heat, making refinement exceptionally difficult. The confident Vice Dean merely sneers, stating modern alchemy has long surpassed old traditional methods. The old fox boasts that his genius son can easily synthesize any complex mineral within just 30 minutes. Suddenly, Hans begins his intricate spell work. A transparent magical sphere manifests, locking to separate stones in midair. His advanced skill shocks the professor, who realizes the entire test rule was carefully prearranged to heavily favor this elite candidate. Meanwhile, Liu keeps her sharp gaze locked on my station, looking deeply surprised by my selection. I picked water aluminum stone and fire red ore, which are the volatile fire attribute counterparts to Hans's materials. The Vice Dean feels intensely insulted by my confident aura, believing that my weak mono will inevitably cause the fire stones to violently explode. Hans chuckles, assuming I chose these opposing minerals just to look cool. He mocks me as an ignorant fool who cannot handle such volatile elements. Witnessing his arrogance, I calmly activate my divine skill. The system notification flashes as the fire link is activated, causing a dense, bright flame to violently wrap around my entire right arm. The foolish noble brat looks incredibly displeased by my sudden display of power, forcing himself to dismiss it as a meaningless visual trick. I rotate my palm, perfectly controlling the raging elemental fire with absolute ease. With a sharp gesture, my selected premium ores float gracefully into the mid-air, absorbing the heat just as I planned. The shocked judges watch closely as the Vice Dean mocks my dangerous attempt to force resonance with identical attributes, expecting a catastrophic failure. However, my control only intensifies. The room violently shakes as a massive wave of pure pressure erupts from my station. Blinding columns of fire shoot upward, completely obscuring everyone's vision in pure amazement. I exhale a long sigh of relief as the magnificent process successfully concludes, revealing a crystal-clear scabbard floating before me. I firmly grasp the newly forged masterpiece right as the system congratulates me. The professor and Liu stand completely frozen in utter disbelief, while the arrogant Vice Dean gapes, unable to comprehend how this is possible. The system officially declares that I have successfully created the fire-layered sword sheath, achieving an ultra-rare grade with unique heat-amplifying effects. Hans completely stops his crafting actions, sweating profusely as he realizes my synthesis speed was significantly faster than his own. He trembles in pure horror, realizing his entire understanding of magic was completely wrong. Because of his severe mental distraction, the volatile water mono inside his floating sphere suddenly loses stability. The Vice Dean screams in panic, ordering his son to stop immediately before the magic stone explodes. It is far too late. The sphere cracks at extreme speed, violently detonating straight into Hans's face as his entire refinement collapses. Half an hour passes quickly as the shattered remnants of Hans's volatile magic stones lie completely ruined across the floor. His face is filled with immense, bitter unwillingness over failing this crucial trial so miserably. Under normal circumstances, one candidate would be chosen as the top contender immediately following the conclusion of this intense practical examination. The chief professor deeply worries because the other prominent candidate failed to produce any finished product due to the sudden magic disruption. Hans covers his crying eyes in absolute shame, seeing his extensive preparation completely ruined. His bleeding arm drips fresh blood onto the cold ground, marking his pathetic defeat without even finishing the competition. The corrupted vice dean suddenly devises a shameless excuse to protect his son's ruined reputation. He adjusts his elegant clothes and loudly suggests cancelling the examination altogether due to a student being severely injured during the test. However, the righteous professor firmly disagrees, stating that this failure was entirely caused by Hans's own careless mistakes. The shameless vice dean accuses the professor of valuing the test results far more than student safety. He claims that completing the entire resonance process within 6 minutes is scientifically impossible for a freshman candidate. He loudly declares that I must have used some dishonorable, deceptive cheating methods to craft this extraordinarily rare, advanced elemental weapon. I choose not to waste my breath explaining the true essence of alchemy crafting to this arrogant old fool. True alchemy forging does not drain the blacksmith's life force. It traces the core root to awaken the metal's inner vitality. While the angry vice dean demands my immediate disqualification, department head Liu and he suddenly stands up. The vice dean gleefully assumes that the powerful department head is rising to support his corrupt accusation of cheating. However, Liu completely ignores his presence, walking straight past his trembling body with an intensely focused expression. Her sharp eyes remain locked entirely on my newly forged masterpiece, ignoring the chaotic political arguments echoing through the room. She approaches my station and gently touches the beautifully layered scabbard with her bare fingers. The moment her hand contacts the metal, an extraordinary, unprecedented wave of pure elemental energy ripples through her body. This unique phenomenon leaves her completely mesmerized, as such flawless modern craftsmanship has never been reported in human history before. An incredibly awkward silence suddenly fills the entire examination hall as the powerful hero reveals a bizarre desire. Saliva visibly drools from the corner of her lips because the weapon smells completely delicious to her unique appetite. She points her finger at me, strangely asking if she could take a bite or at least lick my sword. Both the vice dean and the professor stand completely frozen by her incredibly absurd request, utterly unable to comprehend her hidden eccentric habit. By the time I officially leave the academy grounds, evening has already arrived. Although the judges did not give me an immediate official answer, I easily achieved my goal of crafting an ultra-rare weapon. While walking down the peaceful streets, the memory of the vice dean's shaking, angry face brings a satisfied smile to my lips. Suddenly, the name Bamet strikes a familiar chord within my mind. I scratch my hair repeatedly, trying to recall why this specific family name sounds so incredibly prominent and dangerous from my past life. I suddenly remember that the legendary hero Explosive Hound once mentioned this despicable name during the Great World War. In my previous timeline, that corrupt blacksmith forced her to perform endless brutal labor while purchasing her priceless weapons at worthless prices. That severe magical backlash permanently damaged her body, forcing her to undergo extensive mechanical modifications. Realizing that Hans Bamet is the exact villain who caused her lifelong physical trauma, my strategic objectives become completely clear. To alter human destiny, I must contact the independent hounds early and fix their tragic fates. Controlling Hans will successfully prevent Explosive Hound's future madness, solving one major threat before the real demon war begins. While I head home to await my official test results, a heated debate erupts inside the grand conference room of Percival Academy. Every single faculty member looks incredibly tense because Department Head Liu has just made an absolute executive decision. She boldly demands that newcomer Li Shaizun must be appointed as the top genius of their institution. The shocked professors believe her sudden decision is far too forced and reckless, yet her absolute authority remains the ultimate law here. Liu is globally recognized as an unparalleled combat prodigy who fiercely protected humanity using a mythical tier weapon. Although she eventually fell into darkness as a demon servant, her strategic alliance remains invaluable to me. The Vice Dean desperately uses his political influence to oppose my top status, demanding a deeper investigation. However, Professor Kim quickly defends my work, praising my flawless mono-control. Another professor argues against my capability, but Liu sharply interrupts their endless complaints. She calmly states that my weapon's current completion rate is merely 60%, and this immense potential excites her. She proudly vows to resign immediately if the Academy refuses to accept her executive decision. 54 years ago, the majestic Tower of Heroes descended from the heavens to accelerate human evolution. In immediate response, the chaotic abyss released a corrupted demon legion to ravage all living entities, turning the world into a massive, toxic swamp. Amidst these apocalyptic tides, the ultimate grand academy known as Babel officially rose from the Pacific Ocean. Countless legendary heroes were born here, including the famous ascending Emperor Ludwig. An old man commands the new students to keep moving forward, as climbing this massive tower is their ultimate duty. I mock his words internally because their true mission is preparing for the coming war. Suddenly, 3 top freshmen are called to the massive stage. In my previous life, I always wondered why so many students love to show off their basic skills after achieving minor success. Now, I find myself standing in the exact same ostentatious position. 3 of us are chosen to perform a grand combat demonstration. The massive automated machines are pushed out, proving the Academy truly loves boasting. The excited host announces that the demonstration tools are the latest models developed by the famous Puppet Factory. This close combat machine, designated as Golem Model 9, possesses enough raw destructive power to fight evenly against standard C-class heroes. First, the combat department genius named Jack Myers steps forward onto the empty arena under a silent crowd. Myers comes from a highly prestigious family of legendary swordsmen, yet he unexpectedly grew into a pure martial arts fanatic. The brawler prepares his aggressive fighting stance, determined to complete this presentation beautifully. The hostile automatons mechanical eyes suddenly flash with a dangerous crimson light, waiting for the host's final signal to initiate the brutal clash. The combat machine moves with unbelievable speed, appearing directly in front of Myers within a single blink. It hurls a heavy, whistling fist through the air with immense power. However, Myers easily dodges every single incoming attack with absolute fluidity. He quickly distances himself by several meters, having completely calculated the machine's overall velocity and power. Myers violently storms forward to launch his massive counterattack, concentrating all his physical energy into his right fist. He proudly shouts about his 15 years of hard training, challenging the machine to endure his ultimate strike. A tremendous explosion echoes through the arena as his heavy fist smashes directly into the automaton's thick iron chestplate. The stunned audience stands completely speechless by the sheer magnitude of his monstrous physical strength. His single heavy punch shattered the machine's reinforced armor completely. I am deeply shocked, remembering that this 10-in-a-century genius died incredibly young in my past life despite becoming an A-class hero, strangely stuck at a specific lower level before his demise. Myers smiles confidently, completely breaking the automaton's metallic body with another casual strike. The heavy machine head falls to the floor with a loud clang as he relaxes his muscles. The amazed host gapes in disbelief at this total suppression of a C-class threat. Myers merely waves, claiming this incredible feat was just his basic routine. Next, a striking figure gracefully glides past my vision, completely removing any sense of pressure from the stage. She is the top student of U2, Nishikomi Arika, the eldest daughter of a legendary Japanese lineage. In my previous timeline, she famously rose to S-class prominence using a mythical weapon, before tragically falling to the demon forces later. Although I know her future will be completely corrupted by demonic power, attracting her to my alliance remains highly beneficial. Erika suddenly glances back at me, which feels incredibly strange since we have absolutely no current connection. Shaking off my confusion, I focus on the arena. She opens an elegant cage, releasing a mysterious blue-eyed crow. Erika softly whispers a single command, and the strange crow instantly flies toward the reinforced machine before soaring high into the sky. The automaton remains completely motionless, its targeting system locked entirely on the bird rather than her. It switches to its maximum defense mode, raising its massive armored arms to block any incoming aerial strike. The host explains that this specific machine features a special reinforced armor shell, making its physical defense remarkably high. Erika gently exhales a quiet breath. Suddenly, the crow's eyes explode with a brilliant, mystical blue light. The bird spreads its wide wings like a ruthless general, diving downward at a speed that creates a blurry visual. Erika stands perfectly still, yet the crow continuously strikes the machine with relentless, rapid-fire precision. Within 5 brief seconds, the automaton's ultimate defense is effortlessly shattered like a cheap toy. A massive, fatal hole is carved straight through its reinforced chest core. The powerful machine completely loses power, collapsing heavily onto its knees before the silent crowd. The entire stadium violently erupts into wild cheers over this incredible, single-combo assassination of a reinforced automaton. The mysterious crow gracefully returns to Erica, reverting smoothly back into its normal form. I feel a cold sweat breaking on my forehead, realizing that if I only show off my weapon, the audience will definitely boo my performance. Following my grand entrance onto the stage, Emperor Schubert sighs quietly, feeling deeply impressed by our freshman group. Blacksmiths have rarely produced top-tier scholars for many years, and he honestly hopes this massive pressure will not overwhelm me. Meanwhile, he watches with an accelerated heartbeat, fully believing that I can easily achieve total victory. I slowly unsheath my sharp blade, officially signaling the grand commencement of my combat performance. The crowd gasps loudly upon realizing that both my newly forged sword and layered scabbard possess a rare tier rating. People find it completely insane for a regular newcomer to wield such advanced elemental gear at this young age. The wicked Vice Dean sneers coldly, secretly believing that destiny is finally siding with his political ambition to conquer Percival Academy. He watches Liu with pure malice, greedily planning to force her immediate resignation. Down on the stage, I confidently ignore the massive crowd, mentally preparing to shock the entire institution with my true power. I boldly command the confused host to immediately swap my target for a Model 8 automaton with double reinforced armor plates. While the host hesitates over this unprecedented request, Professor Kim suddenly steps forward with a monstrous machine. This heavily armored unit can easily withstand high-tier attacks, and my mentor encourages me to cause a massive scene. The host reluctantly initiates the match since all the premium equipment is fully prepared. Liu keeps her sharp eyes locked on my position, eagerly expecting an absolute disaster to unfold. I focus my mental energy entirely on the upcoming strike. I am thoroughly determined to never disappoint their high expectations as I assume a classic draw sword stance. Flames instantly erupt from the scabbard, revealing a magnificent 5-colored radiance. While Myers watches with extreme excitement, Hans dismisses my technique as a flashy firework show. He assumes my low mana will cause the conflicting elements to explode, completely unaware that I am using my special skill to compress the volatile energy safely inside the inner walls. My extensive preparation is completely finished, and the advanced automaton stands perfectly ready for my impending assault. I unleash the full capacity of my stored magic, pushing my fragile physical body to its absolute limit. The compressed 5-color flame fragments begin reacting violently with each other, generating a massive pressure wave that shocks every senior professor. The heavy machine rapidly activates its ultimate shield, but it is far too late to block my attack. Executing my exclusive weapon skill, Wildfire, I unleash a devastating crescent wave of compressed magic. A series of cataclysmic explosions rocks the arena, generating a dangerous blast radius that completely shatters the heavy air with an ominous, destructive atmosphere. I calmly execute a smooth flourish before returning the smoking blade back into its scabbard. I look down at my bleeding hands, sweating slightly as I realize my output was somewhat excessive. A massive, deep canyon has been permanently carved straight through the solid stadium floor, leaving a terrifying scar from my supreme sword energy. The stunned spectators sit completely motionless, silenced by the immense magnitude of this freshman's destructive power. The host stands paralyzed as construction teams rush to repair the broken ground. My incredible performance earns unanimous praise from the High Council, securing my top genius status alongside a special reward of legendary, highly coveted hero-tier crafting materials. 10 minutes later, the sharp clicking sound of high heels echoes down the grand hallway. I relax on a comfortable sofa, patiently awaiting Liu's arrival. She gracefully enters the private office, politely apologizing for making me wait while she assisted in clearing the ruined arena. I admit my lack of restraint caused that massive damage. Liu reassures me that she is not here to scold my behavior, but her stomach suddenly growls loudly. I secretly know her hidden desire to consume high-grade weapons, but I remain quiet. She offers 10 times the market price to purchase my gear, which I politely refuse. Suddenly, a golden system notification flashes before my eyes. He firmly grasps my hand as the mysterious bond officially registers at level 1. She eagerly praises my incredible weapon combination, begging me to sell it to her for a crucial personal purpose. This sudden emotional development occurs much faster than in my previous life, creating an excellent tactical opportunity for my future plans. I immediately activate my extraction skill, causing a thick blue mono wave to spread from our hands. The system happily announces the successful acquisition of a top-grade metal called greed iron. While I study this unique red-black spiked ball, a familiar voice suddenly interrupts our meeting, announcing that the principal is waiting for us immediately. Liu looks deeply disappointed as I promise to see her again very soon. As we walk away, her hungry stomach loudly growls because she has not consumed premium forged armaments for a long time. We calmly walk down the majestic hallways of the Grand Bolduc Manor located inside the central main building of the Academy. Professor Kim strongly advises me to watch my language and behavior in front of our legendary principal. He reminds me that the leader generously forgave the massive structural destruction I caused during the arena demonstration. I calmly tell my nervous mentor not to worry because I understand exactly how to handle these prominent social situations. Moments later, I officially step into the private office to meet the supreme leader of Babel. This incredible old man is a genuine human hero who successfully destroyed the sixth demon god in my previous timeline. He is also recognized as a flawless all-clearer, and he smiles warmly while expressing high expectations for my talent. The principal notes that while my newly forged gear is not entirely flawless, my immense potential thoroughly fascinates him. I secretly plan to refine the blade further inside the furnace anyway. My hard work has successfully earned total recognition from the High Council, and the principal kindly offers to grant me to special requested rewards. I immediately ask for rare treasures that can effectively enhance both my magical capacity and strategic memory. The principal readily agrees to my bold request with an amused smile. He slowly raises his wrinkled palm, preparing to activate his mystical spatial ability to retrieve the valuable artifacts directly from a hidden, divine treasury realm. A majestic golden gateway suddenly manifests in midair right as a brilliant cosmic rune appears outside the threshold. To legendary, ultra-rare materials drop into my waiting hands. These legendary items possess incredible swallowing properties and mystical dream magic. While they cannot be utilized immediately, I can already clearly foresee their massive strategic value. I express my deepest gratitude to the laughing principal for these magnificent prizes before leaving the room. As I walk back to the main hall, I feel highly motivated. Meanwhile, the floating rune strangely speaks to the principal, questioning why he granted such valuable, rare ores to a simple freshman candidate who just recently joined. The wise leader calmly exhales a puff of smoke, stating that my young body possesses enough internal capacity to fully digest their power. He notes that it feels as though a highly experienced old man is living inside a youthful shell. The principal opens one eye, admitting that even he cannot fully measure my ultimate potential. 1 hour later, inside the bustling educational building, several students invite Hans Bamert out for a friendly lunch. The arrogant yellow-haired boy proudly declines, bragging that he has an exclusive appointment with a prominent third-year elite senior named Hodwood. He notes their prestigious blacksmith families share a deep historical connection within the weapon industry. While they discuss receiving valuable survival advice from the senior, my shadow slowly enters the classroom. My facial expression instantly shifts into an incredibly cold glare as I lock my eyes onto the trembling yellow-haired brat. I silently warn him to never cause any trouble here because the tragic fates of my dogs depend on it. Hans shivers in pure terror, unable to comprehend why I harbor such an intense, bloodthirsty hostility toward him. My lingering gaze feels like a terrifying ghost threatening to destroy him if he dares step out of line. I look away with a dark smile, satisfied that this foolish noble still understands his inferior position. Suddenly, Professor Kim steps inside the classroom, commanding everyone to remain completely silent. He announces that our primary lesson will smoothly begin with individual introductions as an assistant brings a massive alloy stone. Professor Kim holds a special alloy stone, explaining its sensitivity to magical energy is several dozen times higher than standard ores. When students inject their internal mana, the weapon shape envisioned inside their minds easily manifests into a real object. I am deeply shocked by his skill, feeling a unique power radiating from his legendary contract stone. This highly sensitive material reflects subconscious psychological traits, allowing students to properly examine themselves through their creations. Every freshman in the blacksmithing department must forge a personal replica for their upcoming weekly exhibition. As multiple ordinary classmates step forward to test their skills, I realize their raw power is far too weak to create anything meaningful. I sigh quietly because these regular individuals look entirely like fools compared to the grand geniuses of my previous timeline. Since I chose this difficult path, I will execute everything perfectly to avoid being underestimated. I am determined to thoroughly shock these new students. I step up to the grand platform as the final student to demonstrate. The moment my fingers touch the cold alloy stone, my immense mono triggers a sudden reactive explosion within the sensitive structure. Brilliant flames instantly burst from my hand. A tremendous shockwave rips through the immediate area, generating a colossal energy cloud that violently shatters the peaceful atmosphere and completely covers the entire academic building with thick smoke. My completed masterpiece is officially placed inside the grand exhibition hall, remaining entirely unnoticed by regular visitors for 20 days. Most people blindly mistake it for an ordinary sword, but Erica recognizes its true value. Her sharp eyes widen upon realizing the internal structural design crafted by the top blacksmith student is extraordinarily intricate beyond human comprehension. Meanwhile, I remain isolated inside the workshop, continuously swinging my heavy hammer with perfect precision to ensure identical accuracy for every single blow. The watching assistants stand completely paralyzed in pure amazement. I have executed every heavy strike without displaying a single millisecond of error, making the senior professors realize they have nothing left to teach. 1 hour later, the class successfully completes their practical assignment, and I carefully evaluate their finished work. Looking closely at their cold, mediocre weapons, my hands instantly tighten into frustrated fists. These half-finished products seem completely pathetic by my standard. I raise my arm, fully preparing to smash all their flawed creations into tiny pieces. I truly cannot tolerate such low-quality items remaining inside my workshop. As I swing my heavy fist downward to destroy the entire row of iron blades, a voice suddenly breaks the silence. The teaching assistant looks completely terrified, practically begging me to stop destroying the school property because their budget depends directly on commercial weapons sales. The assistant anxiously inquires what specifically makes me so thoroughly dissatisfied with the current results, wondering if it involves my body or magical flow. I smile awkwardly, admitting that my current physical strength is far too weak. To refine pure darkness, I desperately require high-tier training equipment, but my stamina cannot handle the process yet. The mentor suggests utilizing helpful magic buff effects instead of relying solely on brutal physical conditioning to accelerate my progress. His simple words instantly spark a massive realization inside my mind. In my past life, I was far too stubborn about avoiding external enhancements, but this strategy is perfectly suited for my current weakened physical state. I deeply bow to thank him for this invaluable guidance, though he considers it basic advice. Before leaving, I notice his personal sword looks remarkably rough. As a helpful return favor, I directly advise him to reduce his excessive mono consumption by 30% and concentrate all his physical force onto a single point to improve. The assistant stands completely stunned by my profound technical insight, watching his hammer in deep contemplation as I depart. By afternoon, I remember the school policy encouraging independent study across different departments. To find the specific bodily buffs I need, I head toward the train station, preparing to visit the famous UT University campus. As soon as I step off the train, I unexpectedly encounter the elegant genius Erica. Her aggressive seniors rudely command me to step aside immediately, completely annoying me with their arrogant attitude. I coldly question what they will do if I refuse to move, causing the older students to instantly flare up with intense anger. Erica ignores their petty fury and calmly asks about my destination. When I explain that I am seeking auxiliary courses at her academy, she looks incredibly pleased. She immediately offers to personally guide me through the campus because she belongs there, though her annoyed companions remind her about an important upcoming meeting she must attend. She glares fiercely at the trembling seniors, coldly stating she has absolutely no interest in their boring meeting before commanding them to get lost. Her sudden change in attitude completely shocks the upperclassmen, but it works perfectly for me. We leave the frustrated men behind as Erica eagerly asks what specific subjects I want to master. I tell her that I want to study physical body enhancement buffs that will not interfere with my delicate blacksmithing process. She recommends barrier magic, but that feels far too defensive for my taste. Smiling confidently, she pulls a grand invitation letter from her pocket, claiming that the true outcome always depends on how you use it. Erica chants a complex incantation, applying a powerful barrier over the envelope, confidently challenging me to tear it apart. I immediately recognize this trick. It only hardens upon detecting sudden physical impacts. Tweaking my monofrequency to bypass her family technique, I effortlessly rip the secured envelope completely in half within a second. Erica stands completely frozen on the platform, staring in silent disbelief, unable to comprehend how a mere freshman shattered her prestigious family barrier in such a short period of time. After casually throwing away the ruined envelope, I slowly dust off my hands with an indifferent expression. Her barrier magic is admittedly impressive, and I sincerely thank her for providing such a helpful hint. Now, I must immediately proceed to register my classes, leaving her to enjoy lunch with those two annoying followers. The arrogant seniors rush forward immediately after my departure to ensure Erica is unhurt, but she merely stares at the ripped paper in complete shock. She cannot comprehend why someone would reject her prestigious invitation so carelessly. The following morning, our practical examination takes place inside a densely forested area hidden far away. I usually prefer to remain entirely unnoticed among regular people because I consider myself an ordinary blacksmith. However, walking alongside a famous elite student like Erica instantly draws every single eye in the immediate area toward me. The surrounding students whisper constantly, trying to figure out how a lone mono freshman managed to get close. I sigh internally because useless campus gossip always seems to follow me whenever I travel around this academy. Nearby groups are eagerly discussing how closely the legendary young lady is walking next to me today. Meanwhile, a hidden observer secretly uses his smartphone to capture a clear photograph of our walk for the professors. The barrier department receives the secret image showing our interaction, which drastically increases the total registration number by 3 times. Despite the massive popularity, the head professor remains deeply concerned because the prestigious Jinsheng family ordered the immediate activation of the deadly Blood Soul Labyrinth, a cruel sensory distortion maze designed to fail students. Erica offers absolutely no external assistance to me during this brutal process, yet I easily break through the maze using my own hidden strength. The shocked barrier professor immediately gathers the remaining passing students together. We officially return to the testing location inside the deep forest, preparing to begin the difficult secondary placement test. The professor announces that our next challenge requires us to maintain a defensive magical barrier while simultaneously breaking it with our internal mana. A bright crimson ritual circle suddenly manifests on the grass below. The instructors will grade each applicant based on their exact speed and structural precision during this competitive practical demonstration. An arrogant red-haired student steps forward first, desperate to create a wonderful impression on the watching young lady. He slams his palm downward against the glowing red pattern. This specialized barrier utilizes a complex spider web formation where magical energy flows constantly along the strings, making the sticky defense regenerate endlessly if alive. The red-haired boy quickly struggles because his shallow mana pool cannot properly cover the entire ritual design. He brutally increases his output to overwhelm the spider with raw speed, finishing the exam in over 2 minutes. The instructor advises him to focus heavily on structural understanding rather than relying on pure, uncontrolled force. Erica calmly steps up next, completely ignoring the boastful student, who is desperately trying to catch her attention. Instead of rushing her attack, she carefully analyzes the intricate web configuration. She quickly discovers the hidden core of the magical network, which is cleverly located at the outermost boundary line of the active circle. With a swift gesture, she completely dismantles the core, shattering the entire barrier into tiny fragments within 22 seconds. The watching crowd stands completely paralyzed by her flawless execution. Her incredible performance proves why she is destined to become a top S-rank hero, though the teacher notes she could be faster using textbooks. The instructor turns his sharp gaze toward my direction, calling out the name of Lee Si-hoon for the final examination. He scrutinizes my physical posture closely, unable to detect any special traits from my appearance. I ignore the whispering crowd and calmly walk directly to the center of the platform, slowly crouching down. The surrounding students mock my strange behavior, wondering if I even realize the official test has already begun. I completely disregard their empty words because this unique spider barrier shares identical properties with the dark material I need. I am deeply contemplating the dense ink of darkness, calculating the exact critical threshold required. To refine this dark substance properly, I must apply the perfect amount of stimulation all at once. As the worried professor walks closer to investigate my delay, I slam my hand down. A violent torrent of bright flames erupts from my palm, instantly incinerating the central line of the web and destroying the entire network. The absolute silence over the entire training ground is deafening as I quietly stand up and depart. I have acquired the precise forging knowledge I desired, making any further stay useless. Although my recorded time shows 7 minutes, the head examiner knows I just created an entirely new method to obliterate their ancient magic. I recently submitted an official application for the ultimate forging evaluation. The registrar assumed no one would notice it, but within 3 minutes, her message inbox completely exploded with inquiries. Meanwhile, Vice Principal Michael has received absolutely no student attention, creating a massive, humiliating contrast that leaves his arrogant son ranking second with extreme anger. The Vice Principal stares in utter disbelief upon realizing the department head decided to personally observe Lee Si-hoon's ultimate forging session. That afternoon, I look helplessly at Ryu Yun-ho inside the workshop. Although she claims she came purely to test my skills, I secretly know how busy her schedule is. I finally begin the workshop session. The initial phase requires the incredibly demanding shadow curtain method to refine the dense dark ink. I place the heavy substance into a completely lightless, pitch-black space, allowing my magical energy to diffuse like water. This pure magical flow successfully filters out the dense impurities. It feels exactly like restructuring the fundamental properties of the matter itself. The beautiful department head stands completely stunned by my rapid progress, realizing I have effortlessly completed the demanding first phase already. However, reducing the material to 1/4 volume remains my absolute physical limit today. If I shrink it any further, the overall weapon performance will drop significantly, which brings me directly to the next phase. Any tiny mistake during this critical moment could easily cause massive errors in the thermal furnace temperature. I immediately inject my bright flames directly into the blazing furnace, activating my rainbow fire magic to screen out the precise heat required. These perfectly stabilized flames become the guardian wildfires, accurately maintaining their exact temperature throughout the forging. We finally arrive at the grueling third stage, which requires me to continuously strike the dense darkness with a heavy hammer wrapped in guardian wildfire. The absolute key is swinging the metal tool repeatedly until the physical distortions caused by the wildfire fully disappear. The beautiful director secretly feels deep pity for my intense physical suffering. Even though my body has complete immunity against fire, it does not mean I cannot feel the intense exhaustion from the heat. Several hours quickly pass as I continuously shape the weapon, making the beautiful director so incredibly sleepy that she starts to yawn. By midnight, she falls completely asleep while standing right beside me. The intense refinement continues for long hours as my heavy hammer keeps striking the dark material. The darkness has filled to its absolute limit, and the inner physical distortion finally stops. Utilizing the advanced barrier-breaking formula to delay further changes, I quickly construct a complex magic circuit within the tiny opening during this crucial final moment. A brilliant flash of light illuminates the quiet workshop, and the official system window suddenly appears before my eyes. The notification confirms that the Inklord bracelet has been successfully completed. My immense effort has rewarded me with the legendary Eye of Dominance evaluation, ranking as D grade, which allows me to finally breathe a long sigh of relief. This rare quality accessory allows the user to absorb and store immense mana, granting access to the powerful Burst Surge skill. A satisfied smile finally appears on my face, but a sudden loud rumbling sound breaks the silence. The beautiful director's stomach growls intensely from hunger, making her blush furiously in front of my face. I helplessly agree to let her consume the newly forged item to satisfy her intense hunger. I pretend not to notice her immense embarrassment during this awkward situation. After all, I am fully aware of her unique innate skill known as the Soul Forge, which grants her the extraordinary ability to safely eat any weapon containing rich iron minerals. She activates her special power and takes a bite, completely amazed by the delicious flavor. She notes it tastes exactly like her favorite crispy fried noodles. She has no idea that I deliberately adjusted the flavor profile beforehand according to her personal preferences, successfully boosting her affection towards me while she happily finished eating the unique artifact. She asks me about the magical resonance, and I explain that I crafted for identical pieces to trigger a powerful set effect later. She expresses deep gratitude for my thoughtfulness, while I assure her that I am keeping the 5-colored flame blade and the fire butterfly sheath for the upcoming practical raid lessons instead of selling them. The beautiful director feels completely relieved by my explanation and tells me to quickly return to my dormitory to rest since it is already very late. However, the absolute moment I stand up from the wooden chair, my exhausted body completely loses balance. My vision blurs heavily, and I suddenly collapse forward from extreme physical fatigue. Her graceful figure flashes instantly, catching my falling body before I hit the cold floor. She asks if I am all right with a deeply worried expression. This intimate posture makes me feel incredibly awkward, but she ignores my protests, effortlessly lifting me up in a bridal carry before activating her magic to fly through the open window. We soar gracefully into the starry night sky, heading directly toward the student dormitories. Far down below on the campus streets, the lonely genius Erica is still standing by the fountain, patiently waiting for our scheduled meeting. She looks up at the sky, assuming the distant silhouette is merely a single person flying home in the dark. The next morning, a viral piece of campus news dominates the school's trending boards, revealing that Erica stood waiting outside the forging building for 3 long hours. I secretly know she was looking for me soon. A rugged man wearing a tight bandana walks inside, and the camera quickly cuts directly into our noisy classroom. This new instructor announces he will be responsible for managing our tools and applications course this semester. He suddenly changes our theoretical lecture into a surprise physical drill, declaring that the last person to reach the training center must run 20 full laps. I immediately start sprinting toward the facility alongside the rest of the class. Unfortunately, the heavy bracelet restricts my movement, causing me to arrive last and get penalized 20 laps. I quietly accept the punishment and run while the teacher starts lecturing the rest. He explains that due to the ongoing blade testing hunt, the curriculum has shifted from boring structures to studying active combat styles and advanced sword techniques. The professor explains that dark organizations targeting blacksmiths who forge rare fire element weapons are collectively called blade testing hunters. A terrifying image of these mysterious blade hunters flashes onto the main monitor. I recognize them instantly because this dangerous criminal case remained entirely unsolved during my previous life, making me feel deeply concerned about the future. The instructor tells me to stop running and join the group since I have completed the penalty. He approaches my position with a standard training sword in his hand, wanting to evaluate whether my physical body is genuinely suited for practicing swordsmanship. He encourages me to try swinging the heavy weapon directly toward him right now. I hold the wooden hilt, realizing the heavy accessory on my wrist makes moving smoothly quite difficult. As I focus my mind, a bright blue system window suddenly pops up to confirm that my level has upgraded. This timely attribute boost provides me with the perfect tactical option required to handle this difficult combat demonstration properly. I firmly grip the weapon, fully prepared to engage in this surprise sparring session against the instructor. The surrounding classmates laugh loudly upon seeing my slow movements, assuming I am just completely exhausted from the running. However, the experienced professor instantly recognizes the incredible precision hidden behind my steady, well-balanced starting posture. My initial strike is easily parried by his defense, and he warns me that my offensive approach is far too hasty. Hearing his critique, I immediately shift my stance and rush forward a second time. My physical movements remain incredibly fluid despite the added weight of the artifact, forcing the instructor to raise his guard quickly. The entire atmosphere within the training center completely changes as my eyes turn incredibly sharp. I suddenly release a wave of pure, chilling bloodlust that leaves the professor completely frozen in sheer terror. He stares at me in utter disbelief, unable to comprehend how a regular technical track student could possess such a terrifying, murderous aura. Before he can even recover from his confusion, my fast blade glides past his defense, and the training sword is firmly placed against the teacher's neck. The stunned instructor asks where I learned such deadly mastery. I nervously lie, claiming I merely copied some combat videos from social media, which he surprisingly chooses to believe. The impressed professor offers to write a special recommendation letter so I can properly study under an elite master. He strongly suggests I attend the body control course managed by a legendary fighter named Alcacave. I accept the paper thankfully and prepare to head out toward his private facility later that day to continue training. That afternoon, I finally arrive at Alcacave's private training hall, encountering a highly awkward scene right outside the entrance. A red-haired student is desperately clutching his head while an angry, long-haired teacher forcefully kicks him out. This strict elderly instructor is actually the famous retired S-rank hero known worldwide as the legendary Broken Blade. The retired S-rank hero looks down and asks for my official name. I calmly introduce myself as Lee Si-hoon, a regular freshman from the forging department, explaining that Professor Carlos written this recommendation letter. The nearby blonde student whispers excitedly, recognizing my name from the top rankings of the famous Borsippa Academy registration list. The instructor looks at my ordinary appearance and offers a simple agreement to the desperate blonde student. He promises to teach him swordsmanship only if he can successfully defeat me in a single strike match. The energetic blonde boy quickly assumes a strong offensive stance as I walk directly forward, ready to engage in this sudden duel. He rushes forward with immense physical strength and tightly wraps his arms around my waist to restrict my movement. I immediately activate the hidden magical energy within my unique artifact, triggering the burst detonation ability. My fist strikes his face with incredible speed, instantly securing my victory while leaving the watching professor thoroughly impressed by my reflexes. The defeated student bows deeply, expressing massive excitement upon learning he can officially attend the swordsmanship classes tomorrow. After his grateful departure, the elderly master asks me to demonstrate the precise sword technique I previously used against Carlos. I immediately comply with his direct request and rush forward with a quick, horizontal slash. The powerful veteran blocks my offensive stance instantly with a single effortless move, completely breaking my aggressive charge. He openly criticizes my execution for being far too unrefined, warning that such predictable tricks become useless weaknesses during real battles. I calmly accept his strict teaching, bow politely, and immediately take my leave from the private gym. The blonde boy is secretly waiting outside the main entrance to deliver an important item directly into my hands. He hands me a prestigious invitation envelope, explaining that it belongs to the elite Noble Society Club where upper-class students gather. He reveals that Eric originally intended to give me this document, expressing his deep personal gratitude. I thank him for his kindness and note that he is actually quite friendly before continuing my walk down the street. While contemplating my minor courses, a strange girl suddenly crashed directly into my body. She tightly grabs my wrist, staring intensely at my worn accessory while salivating heavily, loudly asking if I crafted this beautiful item myself. I nod slowly to confirm my ownership, feeling deeply confused by her bizarre and eccentric behavior. As she continues staring blindly, a sudden realization flashes through my mind as I remember her legendary past life. This unusual girl is actually Rhea Claudel, a genius of geniuses capable of raising any weapon's rank by 2 levels. She yells loudly upon discovering that my durable bracelet was forged utilizing exceptionally rare heavy metal ore. To avoid creating a scene on the sidewalk, I suggest we sit down together to drink hot tea inside a nearby cafe. She grips her messy hair in frustration, struggling to decide which powerful enchantments to apply. I place my teacup down calmly and reveal that I possess multiple identical prototypes of this specific bracelet, allowing her to conduct endless experiments. She looks incredibly thrilled by my generous offer, but our pleasant conversation is suddenly interrupted. An aggressive male servant approaches our table and violently slams his open palm downward against the wood. This annoying man speaks utilizing a rude, commanding tone that instantly makes me feel highly uncomfortable. He claims to be a loyal follower of the Jinshang family, demanding that I immediately apologize for publicly ripping Erica's original invitation. I refuse his arrogant demand, prompting Rhea to reveal that he actually serves Erica's older brother. The servant becomes completely infuriated upon having his hidden identity exposed by Rhea's sharp words. He releases a heavy wave of magical pressure across the room, boasting about the endless elite talents residing inside Babel. He insults Rhea for being outdated, but my calm retort instantly shatters his pride, making his face turn red. The furious opponent loses his temper entirely, refusing to tolerate my casual attitude any longer. He grips a sharp dagger tightly, focusing his malicious energy to activate a dangerous combat spell inside the cafe. He prepares to engage in an unauthorized battle, completely determined to punish me severely for my perceived disrespect toward his master. He swings his glowing blade forward, triggering a dark ritual pattern on the floor that summons a large pack of ferocious phantom wolves. These vicious magical beasts immediately leap directly across the table toward my position, bearing their sharp fangs. The surrounding customers scream in terror upon witnessing this sudden, dangerous assault inside the shop. I remain completely unfazed by the incoming beasts, slowly raising my left hand with an indifferent expression. With a casual wave of my arm, the entire pack of ferocious wolves instantly vanishes into thin air. I easily realize these creatures are merely clever illusions projected utilizing his physical dagger as a temporary casting medium. I swipe his weapon quickly, and a bright blue system window pops up to confirm the activation of my gluttonous iron blade skill. I easily chew up his dagger, noting the terrible taste before rushing forward with incredible speed. I unleash a violent burst ring punch straight into his stomach, instantly breaking his mirror dimension apartment. The arrogant servant collapses onto the floor completely unconscious, proving his weak magic is entirely useless against my physical power. I turn my attention back toward the stunned girl sitting next to me. I calmly ask Rhea about the recommended enrollment procedures for the ancient enchanting course, pretending I don't know she is the legendary senior. A sneaky minion tries to escape after taking a heavy punch from our main hero. Suddenly, a beautiful yet mysterious woman named Erica appears out of nowhere, blocking his path entirely. She politely asks to examine his hidden dagger, ordering him to keep this classified incident completely secret from her powerful older brother for now. Erica closely inspects the sharp blade and realizes it contains a highly advanced anti-magic enchantment. She begins wondering if this intricate design was actually copied directly from Professor Roberts' famous magic theory. She concludes that the mysterious craftsman must possess an absolute god-tier S-rank item, refining talent hidden inside his body. Meanwhile, our protagonist is sitting comfortably inside a regular college classroom, waiting for his lecture to begin. Suddenly, a bright holographic system notification pops up in front of him, confirming a brand new connection with Erica. He feels completely surprised by this bond, wondering if she secretly watched his intense street fight earlier. He ignores the screen because he successfully stole 10 valuable daggers from her henchman anyway. Professor Kim steps up to the podium and slowly begins his long blacksmith lecture about weapon diversity. He explains that the physical form of any metal element can change completely based on how you manipulate its internal magic array. The professor waves his hand, instantly returning all transformed metal pieces back to their original rectangular shapes. The teaching assistant then walks around the room, carefully distributing a sensitive iron block to every student. Professor Kim strictly warns everyone to handle their metal piece with extreme care during this practical magic training. As soon as the practice session starts, the entire classroom turns into an absolute chaotic mess. Some students accidentally turn iron into water, while others create incredibly weird shapes. Surprisingly, only our hero and a smug blonde kid named Hans successfully finish the difficult task at the exact same time. Professor Kim looks impressed and immediately allows these two elite students to enter the next advanced phase. They begin modifying their iron blocks rapidly like solving a Rubik's Cube. Hans confidently creates a shape, believing he won. However, the professor quickly points out that Hans actually destroyed his magic array completely. Hans stands there looking incredibly confused, loudly claiming that he followed every single instructional rule perfectly. The professor explains that if a student cannot safely restore the altered matrix back to normal, it is considered structural degradation rather than proper modification. Hans glares at our hero, assuming he is just cluelessly idling. Hans firmly believes our protagonist is about to fail this advanced assignment miserably. Suddenly, our hero moves his fingers with lightning speed, effortlessly controlling his magical energy to reshape the metal block. Within a few seconds, the complex iron piece perfectly reverts back to its original state, leaving the entire room shocked. Professor Kim stares in absolute disbelief and politely asks student Lia Si-hun to demonstrate that incredible recovery technique one more time. Our hero feels slightly hesitant because regular iron cannot do this so easily. He quickly repeats the process, proving he understands the special formula created by the legendary S-rank hero Kens. His ancient metal formula has remained completely unbroken for several decades, which makes our hero's casual success a literal miracle. Soon after, the loud school bell rings, signaling that this intense blacksmith class is finally over. Professor Kim specifically asks our hero to stay behind in the empty room after everyone else leaves. Our hero walks up to the desk, wondering what the teacher wants to discuss alone. Professor Kim smiles warmly and hands him a rare, glowing red crystal called the Fire Gem as an entrance gift. This high-purity item contains massive amounts of raw energy, which can permanently upgrade our hero's flame power. Our hero feels deeply grateful for this amazing booster, knowing it will become an incredible asset for his future growth. The professor then asks if he is interested in an exclusive elective course called Weapon Origin. Our hero instantly recognizes it as one of the most heavily funded classes in the entire academy. He remembers from his past life that this famous professor unfortunately met a tragic, terrible ending later on. Hoping to change fate, he agrees to sign up, shaking Professor Kim's hand firmly as a system notification confirms a level 1 affinity link. He also unlocks an upgraded internal fire storage capacity. Our hero returns to his private room, fully prepared to begin his intense physical refinement training. He swallows the essence of the fiery gem, letting the energy consume his empty body. He focuses his mind deeply, aiming to forge a perfect magical network throughout his physical flesh to store this volatile power. He takes a deep breath, enduring the intense heat as the fiery essence successfully injects into his core, successfully forging his body into a weapon. Suddenly, a flood of system notifications appears, confirming that his special flame magic quality has officially upgraded from F rank to E rank along with massive stat increases. He unlocks an excellent divine refining skill, which makes him smile with deep satisfaction. He suddenly recalls a valuable piece of advice from his previous life, where an older lie told him to utilize every single available resource. He promises himself that he will use everything to win this time without regrets. The teaching assistant loudly announces that today is the final opportunity for polishing our project before delivery. My physical body feels completely wrecked and out of rhythm, but there is absolutely no time to slow down. I instantly grab my heavy hammer and start striking the hot glowing metal relentlessly, refusing to stop. I push my exhausted body far beyond its absolute limits, maintaining a brutal pace to finish shaping the weapon. I carefully plunge the finished sword straight into a bucket of cold water to let it cool down. I take a very deep breath, confidently realizing that this decent blade will successfully fix my problems. I focus entirely on sharpening the edge of this specific weapon for the next 2.5 hours straight. Suddenly, a strange sound like crashing waves echoes in the room, signaling the birth of something truly extraordinary. A blinding white light appears on the blade, officially creating the rare masterpiece broadsword. My hidden system instantly rewards me with a nice C-rank skill after analyzing this successfully crafted rare weapon. I feel incredibly excited knowing my past life skills are slowly returning to my hands one by one. Meanwhile, the other struggling students look totally miserable, wishing they could just drop out immediately. The next morning arrives quickly, and I successfully meet up with the mysterious enchantress at a hidden location. She absolutely hates showing her secret magical process to any random strangers because enchanting is her life. We arrive at the workshop, and she boldly steps inside while shouting loudly to call her grandmother. Her grandmother walks out covering her ears, complaining that her hearing is perfectly fine. Surprisingly, this older lady looks incredibly young for her actual age. She stares at me with deep confusion and introduces herself as Helen, instantly teasing the enchantress about whether I am her secret new boyfriend or just a friend. Helen tells us to stop wasting precious time and start working immediately because a massive pile of incoming freshman orders awaits. The enchantress leads me into their private workshop area, revealing an impressive collection of tools. I spot a colorful palette filled with rare powdered monostones used for fixing damaged enchantments. She explains that this unique side job allows her to practice complex magical enchantments endlessly without worrying about material costs. She grabs a special brush and slowly draws a golden glowing pattern right on the surface of a metal pot. I instantly realize her immense dedication to this work is a true talent. While she is deeply focused on her gold patterns, I decide to quietly look around the messy workshop alone. I quickly notice several mystical items on the shelves that can easily resonate with internal Manhwa circuits to grant special combat effects. I carefully examine their structure, feeling a strong desire to craft again. My hands suddenly get incredibly itchy because I have not properly sharpened a weapon in such a long time. Grandmother Helen notices my intense gaze and tells me to go ahead and try sharpening something if I truly have the skills. I casually pick up a regular, ordinary dagger from the pile. Helen feels quite surprised by my simple choice, but I notice the alignment of the blade is absolutely flawless. I select a special sharpening stone with perfectly even particle compression to maximize the edge. I immediately begin sliding the blade across the stone, showcasing highly advanced techniques that shock the old lady. Helen watches my legendary sharpening movements in absolute silence, completely fascinated by my incredible performance. Suddenly, the loud enchantress shouts out in pure excitement, proudly announcing that she has finally completed her difficult task. She instantly notices her grandmother's shocked face, teasing her for getting totally outclassed by a new freshman. Helen angrily punches her granddaughter's head to shut her up while she keeps staring intensely at my sharpening work. Within an hour, I successfully finish polishing the dagger to absolute perfection. Suddenly, Helen gets a massive attitude shift and aggressively kicks both of us completely out of her shop without warning. Helen stands alone inside the empty workshop, staring blankly at my perfectly sharpened dagger in complete disbelief. Suddenly, a middle-aged man bursts through the front door, loudly calling her sister. Helen tells him to be quiet, but they instantly start arguing about his silly job as a kitchen chef. This man is actually a powerful swordsmanship professor who loves cooking. He spots the sharpened dagger on the table and freezes, noticing its terrifyingly perfect edge. He asks if she polished it while drunk, but Helen reveals the shocking truth that a brand new freshman did it, leaving them completely stunned.